so Patrick for a while has been saying, Brandon, we should go camping, and I agree 100%. And I'm thinking of, a tent and a sleeping bag and a campfire and hot dogs or something. And he's like, well, take my truck. I'm like, okay, cool. Because I have a sedan, and that's not as good for going camping and not as much room. Oh, hey, we're going to go off this trail, and we're going to do dispersed camping. Okay. What's that? No campsite. We're just going to find a spot and set up tent. Okay, we're going to rough it more. Sounds good. Okay. So I gather that this guy Patrick is the real deal. But I didn't know how real until I pulled up today. And I am now inside of this vehicle, which we can't really show you much of because I'll get footage from the outside. It's something else. And this is Patrick, my friend.
Hello.
Who I've known as a tech worker, computer repairman, network builder.
Yep, network maintenance.
Network maintenance, and evidently off-roading
guru.
Yeah.
Or enthusiast.
Aficionado. You're now decorating your truck with outdoor patches.
Yep.
Of outdoor brands.
Yep, different gear that I've purchased or places I've explored. Just some little memories, of my journeys.
Mostly around Minnesota?
Minnesota, Arkansas, Missouri. I've been out to the Ozarks. Last year I went out and spent a week in the Ozarks.
Are most of these alone?
I would say 75% are alone and 25% with others. Although that number is going to change. A few of my real good buddies and purchased rigs and began outfitting them for overlanding as well. So.
I just love the clash. Here we are. This is development everywhere. For miles and miles, and then we're going to take this off-roading vehicle into where there's no development for miles and miles. I never even heard the term overlanding, and I like to think I'm kind of up to date on cultures and so forth. I've heard of van life. Is that a little different?
Yeah, so let me give you a little history on overlanding. So overlanding's really been around for many, many, many years. More so in the Outback is really where it took off. Exploring the Outback in Australia. So overlanding's always been around. It really hit the United States kind of when COVID started hitting. And people were looking for an excuse to get outside. And, especially with the lockdowns, although it was difficult in Minnesota, they did shut down, the governor did shut down a lot of the traditional campgrounds. But dispersed camping, which is essentially camping in state forests or national forests, you can literally pull over or explore roads that do not have a fire number, which means they are not occupied by residents or such. So essentially any kind of road or a pull off of a main road without obstructing the road itself is legitimate for camping, dispersed camping. So that's where the journey began. As a recovering alcoholic and addict, I had to find some way to get out of my shell and really combat the detachment, the isolation, the depression that comes with my disease. So I've started exploring this overlanding and started doing a lot of research on how do I gear up, how do I spend a week off grid comfortably without having to worry about things such as food spoiling, electrical needs. I like to film and I like to do documentaries, and I'm starting to get more into that. So charging camera gear, being able to share my adventures with others. So I did this research, and I just began using my creativity as an engineer to start putting this all together.
Is the goal, how can I last a week? Okay, in in half a day, I'm gonna need to figure out the bathroom. In a full day, I'm gonna have to figure out heat and meals. In 5 days or 3, the cooler isn't gonna cut it anymore because the ice will melt. So now I'm gonna have to think about refrigeration. Correct. So I need electricity. If I need to get help out in the middle of nowhere, how can I reach people? Like, you start to kind of piece together, how can I do a week out there? What would I need? And you start filling in all those gaps.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is just getting out there, and you soon realize what you need. So for me, my setup and my gear has been evolving for the last 3-4 years, where you realize you need something, you don't have it, and then you start conceptualizing, how am I going to build that, or what am I going to do to be able to make this easier on me? Because the long-term goal here is to just get out and explore the trails that are less traveled, and to get where people aren't.
All year round.
All year round. Doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I have the systems in place to be able to survive any of those elements. Now,
in a fabric tent.
Correct. Yep. I sleep up top on my roof, and I'll show you all that once we get set up at camp.
You don't pitch your tent on the ground?
No. My tent is all self-contained on the roof. It's called a rooftop tent.
Yeah.
So that gray cover box looking thing on my roof is actually a tent that folds out to the driver's side of the vehicle.
Well, and you sleep on your roof.
Correct. Yep. And the purpose of that is, well, as a child going through Boy Scouts, I've spent the majority of my life camping on the ground. The nice thing about being elevated is you don't have the moisture and the elements that are out on the ground, the spiders and snakes or what have you, but specifically the bears. Being elevated approximately 7 feet off the ground, I've had bears wandering around my vehicle. So yeah, it's nice to be elevated. There's a lot of different things that come into play with being off the ground, and the pack up and the setup and the pack up is just it's quite a neat thing. I mean, I can be set up and in my tent probably 5-10 minutes.
Wow. So I'm gonna be sitting here struggling with those elastic cord poles. Yeah. Trying to make this dome tent nice and taut.
The nice thing is I'll have my setup all configured, and I'll be able to help you, Brandon.
Thank you. I'll be needing your help a little bit, because another thing too is we set this date up 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago. And it's October in Minnesota. You never know what you're gonna get. I think last week it was 80. No, earlier this week it was 80. And now overnight it snowed.
Yep.
So now we're going up north further, quite a ways further, north of Duluth, and it'll be even cooler up there. So, in fact,
there we go.
Well, speaking of navigation and so forth, let's start the equipment.
Yeah.
Just explain all of this, because this right here could be a video. It really could.
Yeah.
Like, let's go through all my screens. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens, and a mirror, and 2 radios.
Yeah. So the iPad here is used for an application called Gaia GPS. I like to have it separate from my phone, just in case the phone were to ring or what have you.
And it's bigger.
But
that's also different from this navigation.
That's correct. Yep. So a lot of times I won't even use this. I'll use this maybe on getting to my destination. But the nice thing about having Gaia on here is I can pre-plan and route all of my trips before I even leave on my adventure. And then I can just go ahead and run everything on Gaia. There's also an overlanding layer now available on Gaia GPS, which will show you points of interest, fuel stations, and all sorts of different things.
Okay.
So So this is kind of the pre-planning. The ultimate goal here is to be able to go out west and do trips to Utah, Wyoming, Montana. And then the long-term ultimate goal is to be able to hopefully do web design on the road with the help of Elon Musk's Starlink system, now that they have portable satellite dish, and be able to have broadband out at the camps. So
In the middle of nowhere.
in the middle of nowhere, as long as you have an open shot of the sky, you can get internet now. So
You might not even have phone signal,
correct. Yep.
but you'll have internet.
Yep. So, and then if you set your phone to run off of Wi-Fi, then you can connect it to the Starlink and have phone out there too. So it's really been a game changer. So anyway, this controls all of my off-road lights. I have side lights, I have ditch lights, which are on the hood. I have a light bar above.
Okay, that's the light control.
Yep.
And then you've got 2 dash cams.
Yep, this is the dash cam that runs all the time. That's in case I'm in an accident or what have you. Then I have footage to be able to provide to the authorities. This is my GoPro, which I will use for filming my trail adventures, my off-road adventures, doing time lapses and stuff along the road.
Yeah.
And then this is just my cell phone, which connects up to the Alpine system here. So.
Alpine?
Yep. This here is communications, GMRS comms, which we use when we're in group ride situations. And this is CB radio, because I ride with different guys that use different communications. So
CB, that reminds me of like being a trucker in the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a handle?
I don't. CB, you don't need one. GMRS, you do. I did apply for my handle on GMRS, but for some reason, I don't know if I got lost in the system. I have not received my handle yet.
Well, what do they call you when you're on the CB?
Oh.
Do you have a nickname?
No, not really. No,
Okay.
No. So, but yeah, so that's kind of the rundown of what's up here.
I recommend one. Firearm.
Firearm?
There's your handle.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm looking at your tattoo.
Oh. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What's your YouTube channel?
X-Venture Outdoors.
All right.
And that's just starting up. I'm still kind of experimenting with that. I post the majority of my content to my X-Venture_Outdoors Instagram page.
Okay. You getting some traction on that? People are.
Yeah, I think I've got over 1,000 followers, which isn't much, but you know what? I mainly am not doing it for any kind of monetization or anything like that. It's for me, and it's mainly for me to look back at my adventures, my travels, as well as share it with friends and family. So that may change one day, but for right now, it works for me. So.
You talked about planning a whole trip on the Gaia software.
Mm-hmm.
Does that just excite you?
Yeah.
When you got a whole itinerary, especially when it's a long trip,
It
right?
really does, yeah.
Like we're gonna drive down to the Ozarks. Okay, we're gonna go there. We're gonna.
Yep. So last week, or I should say week before last, me and 2 others went on a trip called the Trans-Wisconsin Adventure Trail. And that started down in Dubuque, Iowa, and crossed the river into Wisconsin through the driftless region of Wisconsin, and went all the way up north to Lake Superior. And that was a lot of fun. So we had, 5 days total of travel, and we had everything routed and planned. So we knew, what kind of grounds we had to cover each day to get to this point. And we planned out where we were camping and all that good stuff. So this tool is really an essential tool for traveling and doing this type of thing.
It was a road camping trip.
Yep. Well, I want to say a lot of forest roads and gravel roads. Majority of it was
okay, off-road.
dusty
Off-road
gravel
trip,
roads.
camping trip.
So, and a lot of nice points of interest to see along the way.
I bet there are whole tours Like there's the one you mentioned in Wisconsin, but
Yep.
then there's probably ones all over
Mm-hmm.
where they map out the dirt roads,
Yeah.
or the off roads, or the.
Yep. And some people do share their trips on Gaia, so you have the ability to look at other routes too. If you're going to a destination, things might show up on there.
Is it quite a network of people, a community of people that do
Huge.
this?
It has gotten huge. They have expos all over the United States, all over the world. We've got a lot of vendors coming in from Australia, all over the world to sell this overlanding gear, and it's really become a big thing. So it's kind of an even keel mix of 4x4 off-road versus traveling and camping and things like that. So
Yeah. How does this blend with a house in the suburbs? Is it just sort of two sides of the same person? Or is it like, you know what, I don't want to own a home. I'd rather be on the road full time.
And that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm going with this, is that I've kind of gotten tired of the concrete jungle and the busyness of the city, the constant sirens, and you name it, that this is my escape to get away from all of that and truly experience serenity for what it is. And, this term that we use in recovery, higher power, it's an opportunity for me to connect up wholly with my higher power through nature and just the solitude and serenity out there. So this is my therapy.
You feel fulfilled?
Absolutely.
Out in nature?
Yep. And I lost my father when I was 13 years old, and I really feel connected to him while I'm out there as well. So it's really meaningful to me. So I look at this investment as a whole, and I think every dollar that I've spent on it is well worth it to me, because it allows me to get to places that normal people really don't explore. I mean, I'm really grateful for that.
Do you also find yourself caring less about the drama of politics and what's going on?
Most definitely. Yeah, to be able to disconnect from that is huge for me, because I, like many, can get really absorbed into that, and it can have negative effects on my well-being. So
travel alone, which you said you do most of the time.
Yep.
Is it like reflection time for Patrick, or are you on the phone with people, or what?
It's a little bit of a mix between listening to music and reflection. So it's kind of a healthy 50-50 mix. But I do a lot of things at camp when I'm there, harvesting my own wood, cooking, of course. And when I cook, I do some gourmet meals out there. So my latest piece of equipment is what they call a scuttle. And I don't know the history of the scuttle, where it comes from, but essentially what it is like a plow disc. It's almost like a wok on stilts. And you can do a lot of different things. Fajitas. We're going to be this weekend doing a teriyaki chicken and rice type dish. So I love to cook, and cooking out there is just a blast for me. So.
And do you feel as we've left the metro area, we're still in lots of cars, traffic, freeway, but you kind of feel it leaving you?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yep. Even the billboards that you see on the way up, are kind of up north type resort billboards, and it just gives you that peace of mind, like you're getting out of the hectic busyness of the city.
And in this part of the country, When you do a camping trip, it usually means heading north.
Yeah. Yep, up north. What I want to start doing is going around the Canadian side of the big lake, Gitchigami, and start exploring, the provincial parks and see what's on that part of the lake. So I got a lot of big plans. I don't know when they'll happen. I think what I like to do is just kind of pack up on a Thursday and head out and just go somewhere. I may not have a plan on where I'm going.
Really?
But I just drive and I just get somewhere and I just explore forest roads and find new campsites, and then I plot them on my GPS so I can revisit them.
How many weekends out of the year do you usually, like, do you go like once a month or something, or more?
It's insane. A lot. Not so much since, I'm a small business owner, so it's all dependent on what my week looks like prior to. So, but I try to block off my calendar as much as possible. Now, when we were in COVID, I was going every weekend, so I would do long weekends. So it was a lot of driving, and straight through the year too. But then I started thinking to myself, this is something I love to do, but yet I don't want to wear it out either, So I've been cognizant of that as well, where sometimes I just need to take a month off and not go anywhere. So I do, get more enjoyment out of it. Now, I haven't had that experience where, this is getting to be redundant or boring or what have you. It's never been that way, because driving in an area where you're not familiar with is always exciting to me. So it hasn't gotten to that point, but yet I do, it's in the back of my mind, like, don't wear this out, And you'll hear from a lot of van lifers and a lot of people that are living on the road full time, that they experience some mental health issues associated with not being at a physical location, constantly moving, having to find a place to stay if they're passing through a city, in a residential area. There's some other YouTubers that I follow. One of them being from Duluth, has a huge following, and he's addressed some of those mental health, or been open about those mental health issues. It's not an easy thing, and you're obviously you're a minimalist. You don't have all the amenities that you would in a home, so you're confined to a small space. So, right now for me, it's a hobby, and it's what I need for my therapy, like I mentioned before, just to get away for long weekends. And I'm going to be planning some trips out to South Dakota, the Black Hills area in the spring, and hopefully go out west at some point next year. So take a couple of weeks off and hit some of the national parks. So.
Not for any kind of festival or Sturgis motorcycle rally.
Yeah, probably.
No big event.
No.
It's just to be there.
Yeah.
Just to enjoy the earth there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and to kind of just detach yourself from civilization and really just.
How much do you detach? Do you shut your phone off?
Yeah, because I'm usually camping in places where there is no signal. So.
Is that the case where we're going?
Correct. Yeah. So. Yep, and that's where it's kind of fun to film, because you can have a conversation with yourself and the camera, and it's a fun thing to do, to sit in front of the camera and just kind of explain life and there's a lot of people that don't leave the city and that don't camp, and when they see something like this, they're really struck by it, and it
yeah. Well, it is nice to, we enjoy the connection to society, to, the normal activity of the civilization we're in. but it's also relaxing or even a little relieving to suddenly not be concerned about the score of the game.
Right. Yeah.
Like tomorrow's college football, and some people are going to be like, "Oh, who won?" And tomorrow we won't even have phone service to know.
Right. No, it's it's just nice to have that healthy balance. You know, for some people, it's
Yeah.
you know, they have different things that they do to just kind of escape the reality of this busy world we live in. And, you know, we're constantly being fed by media and this and that, and so it's nice to have a balance of just getting away from all that and really just being present.
Yeah, it puts those decorations to life in their place.
Right. Yeah.
We don't need, or how much does it even really add to our lives to follow a sports team?
Right. It's not. It doesn't enhance anything really.